welcome everyone to round 13 of the PSGL F7 Championship in season 30 on the PlayStation console. We are here in the United States of America at the Circuit of the Americas in Texas. My name is Felix. I'm going to be your commentator for tonight. As always, I am joined by Jake. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. It should be an interesting one tonight. We've got a full grid, which is absolutely fantastic, particularly at this stage of a season, this stage of a game cycle. It's very rare to actually get full grids, including another driver who's just joined and is going to be incredibly disappointed when he sees that there's 20 drivers, 20 seats already filled, and we have a very wet qualifying.
Yeah, he's going to be even more disappointed now. Or maybe he's a bit more happy that he won't be racing tonight because of that rain, at least in quali. The tire suggests, or the tire mappings shows that everyone is on Inters currently, so I reckon there could be a bit of a change. Maybe the rain gets worse, maybe the rain gets lighter, and we could see some slicks or full wets. Josh has already put on the wets, and a Williams driver is going to be the first one to be out on track. Let's check out who that is. It's not the Aston Martin.
It
Jesus
might be
Christ.
Josh.
Yeah, nah, it's Reggie, it looks like. Yeah, it is Reggie,
Yeah.
who wasn't there last week. When Ewan, you said it correctly. I sadly said Evan like 50% of the times, but it's Ewan. Now I know it. Sorry for that once again. I'm not a native speaker, so I'm not that good with names. I thought the W wouldn't make any difference, but turns out it does. But he is not here for tonight. He's already secured the championship, so not that big of a shame for him personally. Reggie, our second place driver in the championship, is here back again. Maybe he should have been there last week when he was still able to more or less fight for the championship. But we can see that many drivers, or everyone actually, is back on the Inters. Josh has changed his mind once again and went onto the green set of tyres.
Yeah, and he's already out onto the racetrack as well. So, yeah, most drivers heading out very early on, and we don't know what the conditions are going to do throughout the session. These may be the best conditions we get, they may be the worst, or it may just stay like this throughout. But this is quite a challenging track at the best of times, so I think these conditions could potentially wreak some havoc, and it's going to be interesting because, of course, we've been so used to Ewan dominating over the course of season 30. It's a real chance for some other drivers to make a name for themselves tonight, and Raggy, who's about to start the first lap of the session, he's had a lot of wins to his name this season. It's the races in between that have cost him. So if you had to pick out a few names who might be in contention to win tonight, he would definitely be one of them. A few other drivers I think ones to look out for. YS Brand hasn't done too many races, but has always been really quick whenever he's raced. So I think he's one to look out for. You've got Wrench, I would say, who might be a threat as well. He's had a good championship. And maybe also Mosey, who's shown some good qualifying pace, but hasn't yet translated it often over a full race distance.
Yeah, the Circuit of the Americas, obviously, from the 2022 season onwards, not the only race we have in Formula One in America, with the Miami Grand Prix being there next week. That's where we will make a 1 week break in PSGL as well, considering there's a race on Sunday afternoon and many league races would clash with that. But from 2023 onwards, we will actually have 3 USA Grand Prix, with the Las Vegas race being added. I don't think I need to give my personal opinion on here. I think we should rather concentrate on expanding, on, getting rid of the bad tracks on the calendar, and replacing them with tracks in countries where we don't have races yet, rather than, expanding the races in certain countries. I mean, Germany has none. But, yeah, well, it is how it is. In the end, it depends on money, and F1 sees a big market potential in USA, which I can understand from a financial standpoint, but that's how it is. And we're here at the Circuit of the Americas, which has been implemented since 2012 to the F1 calendar and has been there for every single season so far. I'm not sure about 2020. Did we race at Coda in 2020?
Don't think we did. If I had time, like, I'm not 100%, but I'm 90% sure we didn't, just because of COVID restrictions. Sadly, I don't think they ever went to the Americas in 2020, from what I can remember. Oh, and Josh has gone into the wall towards the end of his lap. I was just following him on board, and yeah, lost it round it just before he got to the penultimate corner. Of course, teammate of Raggy, who has set the early benchmark. And to be fair, of all the sort of iffy tracks that I think have been added to the calendar in recent times, I would say Circuit of the Americas is one of the more recent tracks that got added that I'm actually would say I'm a huge fan of, and was a definite welcome addition. I'm a huge fan of this track, and I think certainly in terms of both real life racing and on the game, it usually produces a lot of excitement.
Yeah, well, most of us remember the 2015 race where it was starting in the wet and then went to dry when Nico Rosberg made the mistake, which eventually secured the championship for Lewis Hamilton, and then that situation in the cool-down room where Rosberg threw the cap at Lewis Hamilton afterwards with, frustrating result for him. As Luca sets the new fastest lap of the qualifying session so far with a 1 minute 44.2. YS Brand has just started his lap in the Aston Martin. No, has actually not just started his lap. He's on the back straight already, which is very, very long. Leads into quite a heavy braking zone. There's Leroy ahead of him. Hopefully he gets out of the way. Yes, he does. No problems for the Aston Martin driver then. And that is probably going to be the best overtaking spot of the entire track for us here tonight. The heavy braking zone after the back straight of turn 12, and I think we could see a lot of tactical games being played with the DRS zone, because it's pretty powerful around this track. Obviously you need a good exit out of 11 as well, which is basically like a hairpin, very slow corner as well, tricky to get on the traction, especially in the wet. So we could see some tactical games being played with the DRS detection point as YS Brand goes second. And Kev is actually in the Ferrari.
Yeah, he must have disconnected maybe just before the loading screen or something, because he's got in his car now, and he's away. I think he's invalidated a couple of early laps though. Lucas setting the early pace so far. YS Brand in second, got Leroy and Mosey. Reasonable field spread at the moment. These probably weren't conditions that the drivers were expecting or prepared for, so I suspect we'll see the gaps close as the session goes on, as Wrench goes up to P2. And yeah, it's good. And wow, Lucas just put another 7 tenths between himself and Wrench, so he's certainly enjoying his conditions. And sometimes it can take drivers a few laps to get their confidence up when it's like this, but Luca looks like he's got that Haas dialed in very early.
Yeah, it's probably the better tactic to go out, fuel the car for a couple of laps as Harman goes into P2, and just try and get used to the conditions, see where the limits are, see how late you can brake in order to get the quickest line around the corner, rather than just putting one lap of fuel in and then just going for one shot in those kind of conditions. And I reckon that's what many drivers do, because we only have one guy in the pit, which is Russell. And I think it's actually, like you've mentioned, it's one of the better tracks that has been implemented in the recent couple of years, as her 16 Rod goes into P2 for the moment. Let's see where Architect goes, only P10, 1.1 second of provisional pole at the moment. Well, the first sector obviously reminds you of the S sections on the famous historical F1 tracks around tracks like Silverstone or Japan, Suzuka. And then it's got its own kind of vibe, I think, because it's got a pretty slow part after turn 12 with the turn 13, 14. I don't know if it's 15 and 16, if it's counted as a double left-hander. It's actually not. I'm seeing right now. It's actually just turn 15, the long left-hander, which is very tricky to manage because it's kind of awkward, like Bahrain turns 10 and 11, where you have to kind of steer the car and at the same time brake, which obviously makes a lock-up very, very easy. And that could see some problems, especially here in the rain. where the track is slippery and you have to brake a lot early anyway.
Yeah, for sure. It's a very...
As Jake seems to be having some connection issues. Because, Jake, I can't hear you at the moment, so I'm just going to interrupt you as we are on board with Lee. Yep, and there is a network connection failure, and Jake has left the session. Not a good sign as Leroy's up by 2/10 in the middle sector. Could be a challenger for provisional pole here, as he takes a very wide line through turn 15. That looked quite nice from him though, with a good exit here through the triple right-hander of turns 16, 17 and 18. And that left-hander, which is pretty much blind, you can't really see the entry, you can't really see the exit, and that makes it very easy to invalidate. But he manages it, comes around the final corner. Can he take provisional pole for the moment? No, he cannot. 71 thousandths of a second of Luca at the moment in the Haas, but Lee seems to be the only one that is getting close to that Haas car in P1 at the moment. Let's see what Alberto does. He pulls into the pit lane, so no improvement for him. 16 Rod is not improving on his lap either. Monty also invalidated. Then we've got Bo in the AlphaTauri. Let's see if he's on a quick lap here. First sector split was not shown sadly, so we can't really tell how quick he is on that lap he is on right now. 6 minutes and 50 seconds left on the clock. We've got Radiaz, who puts himself on the second row of the grid for now, as I'm not quite sure if Bo is on a quick lap or not. Can't really tell from the sector times, especially in the wet. I really don't know what is good. Nope, he is absolutely not on a quick lap. Then we've got Josh. Let's see if he's on a quick lap. If he was, he definitely isn't anymore, as he loses the rear end right before the triple right-hander here, which almost became typical for those Herman Tilke tracks, who obviously made this track as well as many other tracks on the F1 calendar, like Sochi. We all know that Sochi has got such a corner as well. Josh just started his lap then. We've got Bramer on the outside there. Maybe he slightly distracted the Williams driver there, but he couldn't do anything more than that to get out of the way of the upcoming Williams behind him. And through the S section it looks nice and tidy from Josh right now, and the first sector splits suggests he is slightly up on his time, will actually gain him 2 positions right now if he can pull this lap off with the same improvement as he had in the first sector. Coming now into turn 11, heavy braking zone, clips the apex, and then very difficult to put the power down. Yeah, we can see slightly lost the rear end there. It's tricky in the wet, especially because you can't really get the power down as much as you'd like to. And in the end, it's all about the exit for the remaining straight, because if you ruin your exit, basically your lap is gone, because that straight is so long. And it's not going to be easy for you to recover as he comes through turn 15 now. Slightly locks up the inside front, but manages quite well up into 4th gear on the exit to get the traction down. Then the tricky triple right-hander here as he loses the rear end. And can he keep it out the wall? Yes, he can, but he basically does a 360 here as he crossed the track for a second there. But luckily the car ghosted and nothing has gone wrong. Let's see if Monty's in the grass. And Leroy has invalidated his lap. Let's see what Harmon does in his Aston Martin. He's fitted a new set of tyres. Leroy is still out on that same set of intermediates that he has done his first lap with. So we could expect an improvement from him maybe, as Luca has as well fitted in fresh set of inters and has gone out again and has just started his lap. We're going to switch to him as soon as Harmon crosses the line in his Aston Martin to see what he does. The car with the number 21. Now through that blind left-hander, does he invalidate? Yeah, he does. And that's frustrating. Penultimate corner, but it's so easy to invalidate there. And let's see that Haas car flying around the S section there in the first sector. Brilliant camera shot we've had there. And let's see, the first sector split isn't particularly good. 410's off his best time. He must have made some kind of mistake at some point in that first sector. And Jake is back in the party. I hope his internet connection is better now. Wrench, he sets a new purple first sector as YS Brand goes into third. Monty can't improve just yet, but Wrench slightly up on his time, so maybe he can challenge for pole. Jake, are you here?
Yeah, I'm just rejoining the lobby now. Seems to be having a few issues on the evenings recently, which is just lovely. It just seems to have outages every now and again. But yeah, I'm just rejoining now and interested to see what I've missed. I was sort of keeping half an eye on the stream, so seen a few things. But yeah, I'm guessing we're into the final few minutes of qualifying now.
Yes, we are. 2.5 minutes left in this session. And still not quite certain what the order is going to be like. We see some drivers fitting the softs, but I don't think they will go out on them. It's probably close to the crossover period, but at the moment it's just too wet for the slicks to be faster. Even though we have got Alberto out on the slicks, let's see if he can maybe improve when he sets his first lap. But we're looking at Wrench right now, who's coming around the final 2 corners now. Let's see what he can do. He was slightly up in the first sector, and he crosses the line. Does not improve. Quite far off his best lap so far. But it is DRS enabled, so maybe it's been a brilliant call here from Alberto, who has got the time to go around the track. Radias.
Oh! Harmon was out on slicks as well, but he's just binned it into the wall. So
yeah, first sector.
There's a few that might get around start a lap, but Harmon won't be one of them.
Yeah, it's the crossover period, and I think if someone wants to beat Luca on their laps in this qualifying session, it's going to be maybe even Leroy, but I don't know if he's going to make it around the track in time. I can't see how much time there's left because of that yellow flag there. 1 minute and 5, I think it was. It could be a bit close. I'm not quite sure if Leroy is going to make it, but I'm pretty sure Alberto's going to make it. It looks like it's still pretty wet. It looks like it's still pretty slippery, but it still could be. The slick's been slightly faster. The track seems to be drying quite quickly, and I think Alberto's trying to burn some of the fuel he's got in the car. I think he's carried too much fuel with him. He's currently in 3rd gear, or maybe his shift pedals are broken. No, they are not. He really tried to burn that fuel, and now he's going for his final shot. 22 seconds left on the clock. I'm pretty sure now Lee ain't gonna make it until the time runs out. Let's see what Alberto can do. Into the first corner, heavy braking zone. It looks like the slicks are ready for this track already. And through the first sector, that's going to be the tricky part now. It's a quick section, and it's easy to lose the car around here, but it looks like the slicks are working. He just needs to get it stick around this track. Leroy has not made it, and it's an easily purple first sector for Alberto, so he could be the one challenging for pole here. But remember, we still got Apenvet and Architect also out on the soft tires, so who out of those 3 is going to have the best lap now on their first run on the softs, and who's going to invalidate maybe even, as Alberto seems to be having one of the best chances here. Only 3 people, I think, in contention for pole to beat Luca here. If they can manage to get their lap, to get their car around this track, as Alberto invalidates through turn 12. He just turned in too early. He expected less grip, I reckon. Architect, 1.4 seconds up on his lap, so he's going to be the next one to cross the line. And then we've got the McLaren behind him of Abenvet, but he doesn't invalidate so far. Now into the 3rd sector, 4.2 seconds quicker than anyone else so far. 2.2 seconds only from Apenvet. He must have made a mistake at some part in his lap. So it looks like if Architect can just hold on to that lap and won't invalidate, he's going to be the one taking pole from P13 currently, maybe up onto the first row of the grid. And around the final corner he comes. Just don't lose it. Don't invalidate. Oh, that was close. Slightly turned in too early. But on the exit, he comes across the line. Easily takes pole. And what can Apenvet do? Currently sitting in P18. He comes around the final corner. Where does he go? He goes onto pole. And he turned it around. Oh my goodness, that was a strategic masterclass from those two. Also from Alberto, but he is cracked under the pressure. And by 6.8 seconds to P3, those two soft runners have easily taken the front row of that grid.
Yeah, I think Luke is going to be gutted about that because he looks so quick in those intermediate conditions. He probably was so happy on the intermediates he didn't notice the weather changing. But fair play to Appenvet and Architect, they called it exactly right. And I just wonder if it was the final corner that cost Architect because he was so close to invalidating. He must have lost some time in correcting that. And there was only 4 attempts in it, so maybe it was just that final corner that gave Appenvet pole position over Architect in the end.
Yeah, well, it was the right decision, though, to slow down. I'd rather start in P2 and just be safe rather than risking everything to start one more position up ahead. But if you invalidate, he would have been P14 actually, because Apenbed obviously improved his lap and would have pushed him down on into P14. But it looks very sunny on that Sunday here for race day, and it looks like the drivers now have to adapt to those completely dry conditions once again. Obviously a free tire choice for everyone now except from the top two. And I don't know what their pace is going to be like in the dry. Obviously, we've got the incredibly quick Luca, who at least looked pretty quick in the wet conditions. We obviously have no idea what it's going to be like in the dry conditions, but I reckon he's going to be willing to challenge those two up ahead for P1 straight away, straight from the get-go. And maybe with a good start, he is able to.
Yeah, the tyres are going to be really interesting for those guys that are not on the front row. And like I say, it's going to be interesting to see how the interpace translates into the drive. We're going to maybe see different drivers come to the fore. One news I saw in the chat as well, on the Discord chat, was Raggy mentioning that he has a 5% broken steering wheel. Okay, it's basically turning 5% more one way than it should be doing. So I'm guessing that will affect him quite dramatically, starting P14 in the race. In terms of the tyre selection, yeah, I mean, the majority of drivers opting for the medium tyres, including all the 4 drivers immediately behind us, 2 at the front. So, you know, Appenvet and Architect in theory at least should get a better launch due to the softer tyres, but they're going to really have to try and hope and get away at the start and make the use of the softer tyres because the medium tyre runners will start to come back at them as the race goes on.
Yeah, well, it should be an easy one-stop, even though they are starting on the softs, I reckon. So it's not that bad of a thing to start on the softs around this track, at least. Would have been more of a problem if it would have been like Singapore, where you absolutely have to start on either the mediums or the hard tires in order to make a one-stop work. But around here, it should be fine, and obviously they're going to have the better start tire for the first lap and for the getaway, because behind them Luca, Leroy, Wyatt's Brand and Monty all on the mediums, and only then there's Radius, then once again a medium runner, and Russell who are on the softs. And apart from that, everyone's going to be on a slower tire at the start. We can see the predicted pit stop strategy with the 2-stop. I don't think it's going to be a 2-stop, but yeah, let's see what they can do, and let's see what their pace is going to be like. Obviously, it's always a tight squeeze through turn 1. It's a hairpin, which is always tricky for a first corner on an F1 track on lap 1. So we might see some crashes here and there. But hopefully everything goes okay and well as the drivers are starting to line up now.
Yeah, slightly uphill sort of blind entry into turn 1 as well. It offers the opportunity for cars to go alongside each other, but then quickly narrows at the apex, so it is kind of almost prone to a few collisions here and there. There is a bit of runoff as well, so if you do get pushed wide, you're not too disadvantaged in that sense. A couple of drivers are towards the back starting on softs. I think they'll be hoping to make up ground pretty quickly. But with 20 drivers on the grid and such a close sort of knit of pace, I'm expecting we may see a few broken front wings by the end of the first lap.
As the drivers are preparing for lights out here, and the lights are coming on now, and it's 5 red lights. And we are off here in the USA. It seems to be a good start from the Alfa Romeo on P2. It looks like the Haas has made a great start as well. He's already up into P2 on the inside now for turn 1. The McLaren tries to go around the outside. Can't quite get alongside though. And now he has to defend himself from the Haas coming up behind. And he's spun. Oh my goodness me. That's a high speed impact. He keeps it out the wall though. A great save there from him. But that has completely cost him probably his entire race. We see some bits of carbon fiber flying around as well, probably some contact at the back, but that was so unnecessary. No fighting really. He was ahead of Luca at that stage, but he just loses the rear end and spins the car around. Lucky for him, he kept it out of the wall. Bramer has had some issues as well. He has dropped down places, and apart from that, it looks like the majority of the race start was pretty clean.
Yeah, I was about to say it was looking really clean, but we have had as well, we've got Paha Perka in the other Alpine. He's got some wing damage as well. I don't know if maybe the two Alpines came together on the opening lap by the looks of it. We've got Russell passing YS Brand for P5, another soft tyre runner making good progress. But Appenvet really was caught napping at the start and then was always trying to make up for lost time, as Luca has a huge moment himself just behind the race leader, and you can see that gap already emerging out front as Architect tries to make the most of the soft tyres. But we've got a couple of good soft tyre runners slotting into P4 and P5, so they'll be looking to try and make inroads too.
Yeah, also Sick Boy, I think, has had a pretty solid start. Let me see. Yes, he's gained 7 positions off the start. So brilliant stuff for him so far. And he just made up another spot in the final sector there on the opening lap. And he's pretty close to the rear end of that Alfa Romeo of Mosey right ahead of him. And he seems to have a brilliant exit here around the outside now into the S section. This could be this could go horribly wrong. Wow, what a tight squeeze on the apex there. But Mosey didn't really give him the room, and the door wasn't really open for the Mercedes. So a smart decision there by Sick Boy to just back out of there and just, you know, keep your front wing adapted to your car rather than just losing it and having it flying around the circuit at some stage in the first sector. But it looks like the soft runners do have a really good advantage, and we can see Radius is pretty close to the rear end of Leroy. Also on the softs here, the McLaren of Radius. Behind him, Russell, he's closing up as well. He's going for it into turn 12 at the end of the long back straight. He's got the inside line, which turns into the outside now, but he can't make the move quite stick. Good defending there by Radius, but a very late and ballsy move there by Russell.
Yeah, and he didn't quite make it work, but it was a good attempt. Sick Boy has now passed Mosey. Like you said, it was probably not worth the risk earlier on in the lap, but with the superior tyre advantage, he's made it work. I'm guessing down at the end of the back straight, and is now up into P9, and he really has made the outstanding start, up 8 places now. As Luca already has a penalty, I feel that's something we're going to see a lot of this race, but getting a penalty that early on really puts you on the back foot. Oh,
let's look at Radias into turn 1. He's right up to the rear of Leroy, who slightly moves under braking, but I think that was still alright. He didn't really swerve. He just slightly started to move his Ferrari towards the inside of the corner, which I think was very fair. But Russell picks up a penalty as well already. Wow, this could be a penalty heaven here at this race, which is obviously not good for those guys, getting penalties so early on in the race, and it kind of demotivates you and maybe makes you a bit more cautious, and with that a bit slower than you would usually go, and you're not ready, or you're not really able to risk as much as you'd like to now. With Radias being that close to Leroy now, I reckon he's going to make a move at the end of this back straight into turn 12 maybe. But Leroy seems to have some good straight line speed. He closes up in the braking zone though once again, but he just can't find his way past Leroy just yet.
Now Russell once again had a sort of half look up the inside. He really fancies himself on the brakes going into that one. And Radia now going for it on Leroy. What is going on here? 3 wide, and Luke has been pushed off the road.
Oh, and he's now under pressure from Russell as well. He's got the inside line though. Through a triple right-hander, that's a big advantage. He keeps that spot, but he just lost out by 2 positions. And Leroy has still not lost a spot, but he's rather gained one. So seems like good defending tactics, I would say. But now he's still got the DRS, actually. He was close enough, but now maybe once again into turn 1, that could be a good opportunity. But no, Radia plays the patience game here pretty well. But at some point he has to make a move to really make those softs work on his first stint when he has got the tyre advantage. And right now it looks like he's getting held up by those soft runners around him.
Yeah, absolutely. He's really making good inroads, but Leroy, like you said, has got some excellent straight line pace in that Ferrari, and if he can hang on to the DRS of Architect, it's going to be tough for Radia to pull off a move unless he's brave on the brakes. You can see through these twisty sections that he's definitely got the advantage on the Ferrari. He has a look, but was that potentially a wise decision? It may affect his exit speed. We've got yellow flag in sector 2. Looks like Appenvet's having more problems in the other McLaren. But here goes Radia for P2. He's got the inside line. Looks like he's got the straight line speed on this occasion. He'll try and fight it back with Leroy. Oh, it's very late on the brakes. Oh, there's contact between the pair of them, wheel to wheel. No damage done, but they are fighting this one out tooth and nail. And Leroy determined not to lose the P2. But up and under, round the outside now for Radia. Leroy has the inside line. Will he shove the McLaren out wide? He won't. He gives in the room, and they continue to go side by side. This is fantastic racing between the pair of them, and Radia eventually makes the move sticking into P2.
Hopefully there's no sideboard or bargeboard damage for the Ferrari of Leroy. Luca, in the meantime, has lost the spot to Russell now as well. So big issues for the Haas driver right now. Already a penalty and another place lost. And here comes Russell. Then he tries to take the advantage of the quicker tyres so early on in the race, and he's got the outside line now, which turns into the inside for this right-hander here right before the S section. The move needs to be done. He uses his overtake mode. That's going to be tight into the S section, but great racing. I gotta say, fair play to Leroy, who's defending for all his life here, because he knows how important that first stint is for him now, because he has got the disadvantage, and the longer he can keep those soft runners around and behind him, the better it is for the end of the race, for his second stint, when he has got the advantage and he's defending hard, but he's defending fair. That is such great racing in between him and the other drivers around him.
Yeah, and his pace isn't all that bad either. To say he's on the slower tyres, keeping good pace with Radia still, who is closing in on the Architect up front. Architect hasn't been able to pull away from, even though there's been a lot of battling going on behind. He still hasn't been able to pull away from those who were chasing him, and Leroy putting up some stout defence of his position and still in P3 at the moment, but it is so close between all the top guys. We've got Alberto further down making a bold move at the inside of YS Brand, and it's still a bit of wheel rubbing, but it looks like he's going to make it around the outside, and he does. So a bold move that's paid off for the other Haas driver, and he's up to P6 while his teammates losing positions. Alberto will be coming up to the back of him very shortly.
Yeah, obviously the DRS train at the moment is really making it difficult for the drivers to pass each other, and it definitely seems to be an issue for the soft runners. Here comes Russell maybe once again down into turn 1. It's a late lunge down the inside of Leroy. He gets the space he needs on the inside, but he still can't make it work. Leroy's putting some great defenses up here so early on in the race, and he's really causing Russell a lot of problems so far in these first 5 laps we've had so far, and it's great stuff from Leroy so far.
Some crazy racing further down as well. We have Monte and Sick Boy going side by side through the S's section, and actually Sick Boy getting almost pushed out of it by Monte. Had to concede that and stay in P9, but trying to make further inroads on those soft tyres, but Monte having none of it, and 2 into 1 through the S's section is not easy, as they've proved it. Here comes Radia for the lead.
Oh, look at Leroy. Look at Leroy. Leroy makes it 3 wide on the mediums, and he's got the inside line for turn 12. Can he take the lead on lap 6? Yes, he can. Brilliant move by Leroy, and he just caught the McLaren of Radius napping, it seems like. Radius was absolutely not expecting that. He might have a go back at him now into turn 15, maybe the inside line. No, but there goes Russell down the inside of Architect, and it's all going wrong for the Alfa Romeo at the moment. As he said, such a chilled race at the front, and now suddenly out of nowhere. He's just lost 3 places. But brilliant stuff by Leroy. He caught the McLaren napping, who didn't really close the door on him because he was too focused on the Alfa Romeo in front of him to just get past him, and he just didn't cover the inside line. Leroy saw the gap and took it, and now is in the lead of this race.
Yeah, and it's going to get from bad to worse for the Architect, because Luca's now going down the inside to turn 1 as well, and there's nothing really that Architect can do, and he loses yet another place. It's been a shocking lap for Architect, dropping from 1st to 5th. As Radia picks up a penalty, so this is just getting from good to better for Leroy. He's in the lead on the slower tyre, and all the 3 drivers immediately behind him have penalties.
I gotta say, Leroy's showing a lot of good stuff here in this race so far. Very smart tactics. Obviously, he knows he can fight. I mean, he's got the disadvantage, and it really doesn't hinder him all too much because he's gonna have the advantage on the second stint, and the longer he holds them behind and he holds them up, the better it is for his second sim. But now I'm afraid his fight is going to come to an end. But here comes Russell. He's going to make it 3 wide again, isn't he? Yes, he is. Down the inside he goes. And now Russell takes the lead. But can Radius get back at him? Yes, he can. Still side by side now through turn 13 and 14. Still side by side now. The inside line for the McLaren of Radius through the left-hander. And he's got it. Leroy's trying to put his nose alongside that AlphaTauri. And he's still alongside. He's got the outside now though, and he has to give up on that position. But once again, it looks like most drivers are just not aware of the car behind them. Obviously they've got the double slipstream then, and they are just not ready for an attack from the guy behind them if they are going for an overtake.
Well, it seems like it's Radia on both occasions who should be in the lead, but he just doesn't notice. But he's got another car alongside him and doesn't do enough to cover it off. First it was Leroy, and then now it was Russell. This time he manages to come back at Russell and retake the lead, but yeah, Radia's got to be careful, because I imagine it'll be another situation where he's 2nd or 3rd, and he just has to be wary that there might be another car attacking him with the effect of a slipstream and a DRS. So he's got the lead for now, but they weren't the most comfortable of overtakes for the McLaren driver, and Leroy will try and keep pace with the top 2, but it's just starting to drift away, and he's got to be wary of Luca behind, as we've got a retirement in the pit lane. That is Haha Perka. I think this is PSGL debut, if I'm right in saying.
Architect just lost another spot. He's down into P6 now. He seems to really not have the pace, but I gotta say, it's great racing so far in this race. It's great entertainment, and here comes Russell, it looks like. And only a slight defense from Radi as he leaves the door open on the inside, and he just gives up on that spot for now. Or does he? He's got the outside line once again. He's having a little look, but now he gives it up. He tried the switchback, but there's just no room, or is there? There is some room, actually, but he just can't make it work around the outside there. Maybe with a better exit now. He's once again gone for the outside in the next corner, but he can't take the lead back, and now it is Russell leading the way, even though he was one of the guys getting such an early penalty within the first 3 or 4 laps, and basically now 2 people around him have a penalty now as well. But I gotta say, Leroy is in a prime position at the moment. Even though he's not leading, it's looking great for him. And Radius is just not willing to defend all too much. There's a McLaren coming out of the pits. Please get out of the way. Oh, he's ghosting. All right, but yeah, I think that confused Radius a little bit. Gotta say though, Radius just doesn't seem to care too much about track position, as he's now made a mistake. He's gone very wide through the S section.
Yeah, and
sorry for the voice crack, by the way.
It's okay. Let's put him at the mercy of Leroy almost. An update on Architect. His race is just going from bad to worse. It's hard to believe about 3 laps ago he was leading this one. He's now down in P8 as he's lost more positions to Weisbrand and Monty, and he's going to come under threat from Sick Boy as well. I don't know if he's got a little bit of damage or something, or if he's just hasn't quite got the pace. But either way, he's dropping like a stone, and he's about to lose another place to Sick Boy.
Oh, and there goes Radius now. 1 lap later, he tries to get back into the lead of this race, but Russell does it quite nicely. Defends as Wrench and Mosey are fighting their way. Wrench in P10 at the moment. I gotta say though, even though Sick Boy is now up into P8, he's charged through the field that started off so promising, has been slowed down massively, or almost came to a hold until this lap, where he gained at least one more spot now against Architect, who's really not looking quick. But it looks like Monty has done a pretty good job to keep Sickboy behind, even though he was on such a charge. And Architect is, unsurprisingly, the first driver to dive into the pits, and he's got now 19 laps. No, 18, sorry. 18 laps of the medium compound ahead of him.
Yeah, it just hasn't worked out for him. I don't know, like I say, if it's a bit of damage on his car, but either way, he just didn't have the pace anymore on the soft tyres, so an early stop, really the logical decision for the Alfa Romeo driver, and perhaps he can start to make up some positions later on. But we've got another yellow flag in the first sector.
No, not
yeah,
Bremer. Josh has spun. And he's back on the track, but I gotta say, look at how close that field is. Inside the top 10, none of the gaps in between the drivers are above a second. So everyone's basically in a big DRS train from P1 to P10 downwards. And there goes Radius back into the lead. He's got the inside line now. Can he make it stick? Yes, he can. And I don't think that Russell would have given up on that place so easily if that was on the second stint, because now they know they don't really need that track. Oh, Leroy has just picked up a penalty, and that basically puts Alberto into the lead right now with all the penalties being added. But gotta say, I think the drivers know that the track positions are not that important, as Radias and Russell both dive into the pit lane. So does Sickboy. So all the soft runners in the pit lane now. Leroy regains the lead, and there is YS Brand trying to make a move on Alberto for the effective lead at the moment when it comes down to penalties, but he can't make it work. Alberto holds on to the spot around the outside. But yeah, obviously now the position fights are not as important as they are within the last, I don't know, let's say like 10 laps, as Monty just had a big off there and decided to take the alternative round through the first sector. And there's a Ferrari. That is Leroy. Leroy is out of this race. I just saw it at the corner of the screen. He has spun at the end of the S section, and he is out of this race.
I can see, oh yeah, his Ferrari imprinted into the wall. He will not be happy. It was a really bizarre lap or so for Leroy, because he looked like he had it all under control. He did a very half-hearted move on Russell on the last lap, which got him a penalty because he went too much over the apex. He then comfortably missed the apex to another corner on the inside as well, which would have got him another warning, I'm sure of it. And then this lap he's crashed, so I don't know what's going on. Russell has just passed Radia after their stops again at the end of the DRS straight, but yeah, bizarre lap or so for Leroy. It's almost like he just lost all composure and just made some very silly mistakes, and I'm guessing that crash was on his own. I mean, maybe it wasn't, but yeah, it's a sad end to his race because it looked like he was in a really strong position up until then.
I actually think the crash was on his own. I think he just lost the rear end because there was no one really that close to him. I gotta say though, I know Leroy for a couple of years now from different leagues, and it's kind of been the same old story for him. The pace is there. He is a quick driver, and on his day he is unbeatable in certain divisions, but he just makes way too many mistakes. His inconsistency has cost him quite a lot, and once again here today, as Josh made a mistake in the last sector and dives into the pit lane. Once again today, the pace was there. There was some great fighting. He's done a great job on that first stint up until that point. And like you've mentioned, just within one lap, he picks up a penalty through a half-hearted move. And half a lap later, he is in the wall and out of this race. The pace is there. It's just the inconsistency that he needs to get sorted. And Alberto's really close to the rear end of his teammate Luca now. And in between those two, it might be important to be the driver ahead because of the pit stops.
Yeah, absolutely. They want the first say on pit stops if they can, because the undercut will be absolutely crucial. So there could be some potential. I don't know how close they are, if they work together or not, but they really want that track position. And it's kind of essential at this point that the medium tyre runners work together to make sure that they don't lose each other too much time, because at the end of a race they'll have the soft tyres, and as we saw, they were right with the soft tyre runners on the first stint. So I would say really these guys here, the top sort of 5-6 drivers, are the ones probably in best contention, I would say, to win this race, because they will be super quick at the end of a race and they'll come right back at Russell and Radia, and it's difficult to say whether they'll have the tyre grip to respond to that.
Well, we're now in the stage where it's right in between the first pit stop of the soft runners and the first pit stop of the medium runners. They need to go an extra 3, 4, maybe even 5 laps until they can get onto that soft tires, and then it's going to be a sprint towards the end for the last 10, 11, maybe 12 laps at max, because it looked like all of the soft runners were more or less at the same mindset, thinking it was the right moment to pit, and there goes Alberto. Luca didn't really defend that all too much, probably because he knows that the pit stop isn't going to be this lap. Otherwise he probably would have fought that one a bit more. But it's definitely important for the soft runners to, you know, have good tire condition at the end of the race as well, because we saw all the soft runners diving in at more or less the same time. So I reckon there was not much life left in them to really be able to fight against those guys around them. And we've got yellow flags. That's a Ferrari. That is Kev in the second sector. Yes, he was spun round. He's dropped down back to 15th. He's still on his first set of mediums.
I don't know entirely what's happened between what's happened with Sick Boy and Architect, but they are. Oh, as Luca picks up a second penalty, of course. I believe he was one of, if not the first driver to pick up a penalty in this race, and we mentioned it put him on the back foot, and that's what I mean. He's now got another penalty, and he's really up against it now against a lot of drivers around him that don't have penalties. So that's a real big blow for Luca. Yeah, I'm just wondering why Sick Boy and Architect have really drifted away from Russell and Radia since the pit stops, and it's really difficult to try and make that margin up when the driver in front is constantly getting the DRS off the car in front of him. So Sick Boy and Architect here, you could argue, are almost a little bit out of contention given where they are right now.
Obviously, we don't know how big the undercut is going to be. I reckon those guys who pitted earlier are going to be gaining 4, 5, maybe even 6 seconds if they keep their stuff together. And there goes Russell then past the first medium runner, and Radius tries to get through as well. At the same time, slight contact made with the Mercedes of her 16 Rod, who stays on the inside, and Radius is going to be frustrated with that one, and he gets pushed wide. I don't know if that's necessary from her 16 Rod. He knows he still has to make a pit stop, and there's no advantage for him fighting those guys, so I can fully understand if Radius says that was so unnecessary from him. Luckily for him, he's still within that 1 second window of Russell ahead.
Yeah, I don't think Radio will be very happy about that, and they're on very different races, and Radio will probably feel like he needed to make that move as quickly as possible to stay with Russell. So yeah, I don't know about that person. I think that was all a little bit unnecessary and not really worth fighting over, but 16 Rod's still out on his set of mediums, but he's very much out of contention given where everybody is at the moment. So maybe a bit of frustration came out in his driving as well. We don't know. But Russell's going to have more overtaking to do. He's now behind his teammate Bo, and will be interesting to see here how difficult Bo makes it for him, to give us an idea on how well the AlphaTauri teammates get along.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an easy move anyway, no matter what he does. But Raddy has quickly closed up to Russell once again, so it seems like he's very quick this evening, and without the help of DRS as well. There goes Russell then, but no, he stays completely towards the outside, and I think it's the right decision. And Radius is willing to get past at the same time as his rival in this race does, and he does so much more easily than he did 1 lap ago against her 16 Rod. And they are now up into P8 and P9, and they are now coming up to the last car that isn't part of that leading group.
Yeah, they're only sort of 11 seconds off a race lead now, so although the medium tyre runners will have the advantage of soft tyres, they have got some margin to make up once they do come in and pit. I'm not entirely sure as to why, but I was about to say Luke is nearly a second behind Alberto out front, so I don't know if Alberto's just getting the hammer down or if Luke has made a mistake somewhere, but the bit of a gap opening up there, and it's absolutely crucial for Luke that he doesn't lose the DRS to his teammate, because that will make him very vulnerable to the cars behind.
Tell you what, those two guys who were on the soft, as we've got a spin from her 16 rod and a broken front wing as well. I tell you what, those guys who are going from soft to medium, so Russell and Radias, are doing a great job at the moment. They're closing up as much as they can. They're easily getting through traffic, and as long as nothing unexpected happens, I think they're in a prime position to win this race here, because the other guys ahead of them in that leading train have got about 10, 11, maybe 12 laps to catch them. And I don't think the pace of those two here is going to be that bad.
No, not at all. They're actually in a really good spot at the moment. It's probably maybe one or two more laps before his medium tyre runners pit, but the margin that Russell and Raddy have managed to make up to them is enough. But like I said, they're probably in prime position to win this race. Of course, one thing we do have to bear in mind is they both have penalties, and we haven't yet had a safety car. But if we do, that could play right into the hands of some of the guys that don't have penalties, such as Alberto, Wyas, Brandon, Monty, and Wrench, who would go right into contention as Raggy makes what I'd say is quite an early stop from mediums to softs.
Yep, first medium runner to go for his scheduled pit stop. Maybe once the undercut, he probably needs it as well, because otherwise he won't be catching up to those guys ahead of him. And no, alright, I was just a bit confused there. If 16 Rod has just stayed out without a front wing, but no, he hasn't. And now it's absolutely clean air for Russell. It's DRS for Radias, and a lot of time to catch up to those guys ahead. They've broken that gap down to the leading group to less than 10 seconds, and that's a big advantage. That's a huge advantage they have.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder if we're going to see some of these leading group of drivers pit at the end of this lap, but of course it's not just Alberto and Luca that are going to have a problem with being the same team. It's Monty and Wrench as well in the Red Bulls, so a few of these drivers are going to maybe have to stay out one lap later than they'd want to, just because they have a teammate right in front or right behind them.
Yeah, so it's probably critical for Alberto to be ahead of his teammate at this stage. Does he dive into the pit lane? Yes, he does. And so does Weisbrand. It seems like Weisbrand has decided very late that he wants to pit. He probably said beforehand, I'm going to pit if someone ahead pits as well, to not lose any time due to the undercut. And there goes Wrench then in the pit lane. Let's see, where does he come out? He's ahead! No, he's not. Sorry. The game once again glitched out. Alberto still ahead of everyone else. YS Brand still behind him, and then there's the Red Bull, but for a second the game showed the Aston Martin was still in the pits, still stuck in the pit box, but he wasn't. And look at that gap in between Radias and Alberto. That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah, you're looking at nearly 10 seconds. That's a lot of time to make up, and they've also got Architect and Sick Boy to dispatch off first as well, so they won't make it easy either. What was interesting between the Red Bulls is that Wrench was the one who pitted. He was the one behind Monty, so Monty opted to stay out, and Wrench was the one who pitted as Alberto slightly hit the back of Architect there. He was so slow on the exit of turn 11 was Architect, and he's going to get absolutely swamped down this straight with both Alberto and Weisbrand easily getting past him. Weisbrand looking to potentially make a move on Alberto, but opts not to try and outbrake him into turn 12.
Alberto slightly got wide into turn 12, but didn't lose him too much time. But it really depends on the little things now. I'm curious to see when those mediums are gonna get worse and worse, and I'm curious to see how long the softs are gonna be in their optimal window to really deliver the pace they need now. But as long as Alberto and YS Brand don't pick up penalties, it's still a good chance because they only need to get into a 3-second window of those two ahead. But it looks like Radias and Russell are both smart and not fighting each other because they know they need to get that gap sorted in between them and Alberto.
Yeah, and look how much just pitting one lap later has cost Luca and Monty. They are a significant margin behind their teammates compared to where they were before. So that one lap has proven to be quite costly in terms of track position. And it's not just the fact they've lost time to their teammates, they've got a lot of cars in between themselves and their teammates as well, which is the keyer issue here.
Yeah, Mosey has just picked up a penalty. Radias is once again closing up, but he's not using any overtake ERS mode. And Mosey's just picked up his second penalty, and YS Brand has gone past Alberto. Okay.
Yeah, quite a simple move, that one, done way before the braking zone to 12, and YS Brand is now the leading driver trying to close in on these two race leaders. They've only got Sick Boy between themselves and the two race leaders, and as you can see, they're about 10 seconds behind before. That gap's already down to 7 seconds, so they are making big inroads very quickly.
Question is, how long is that big advantage going to last? Because those softs are not going to be great for the rest of the race. So let's see, I reckon the softs will be at their best for maybe 3 laps, maximum of 4, I reckon. And then I think they'll start to notice the tyre where Sick Boy half-heartedly tries to defend, but no, he just tucks in behind. But there's now a car in between Alberto and YS Brand, which obviously is great for YS Brand because he can easily pull away now in the first sector, and Alberto's stuck behind that Mercedes and losing time to his main rival. He's looking for a move around the outside, which then turns into the inside here. Whoa, that's close. He's got the outside line now, but he's got the better grip and he's got the move done. And he's picked up a penalty! Oh no. Wow, that was impatience, I'd say. Impatience. He could have just waited until the straight to then pick up the DRS. He doesn't even have DRS, but also he's lost time, doesn't have DRS, and now a penalty.
It's a double whammy as well. Sigboy's going to come back at him here, so he could have potentially made that move for nothing. And that's the thing, he's done it in the first sector, so then he didn't have the DRS down the straight towards 12, and now he's fighting with Sigboy all over again, so that move did not pay off. He's picked up a penalty in the process. He should, with a superior grip here, get the move finally sorted out, which he does. But it's again more time he's lost. He's already nearly 2 seconds behind YS Brand, so he's not kept with the Aston Martin regardless. And that lap has probably cost Alberto a really good result this evening.
Yeah, I think that was just impatience that really cost him dearly in the end. Ozzy loses the spot to Luca now, as they're still alongside each other. Please don't close that gap now. Still on the inside for turn 1, and he makes the move. Stick. Yes, he is up 1 position. Renge has had a much more easier life getting past Sick Boy here on the main straight. He just flew past him and into the first corner. He was passed, and now Renge effectively in P4 at the moment because of that penalty Alberto picked up. I want to see though what it's looking like for not Alberto, YS Brand. He's got a warning on the first lap. I don't know what that is for, and he's got a warning on lap 16. He might be on 2, he might be on 1. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, either way, and if he can avoid picking up a penalty, he's getting into the sort of window where he's in decent position here to win this race. So it's absolutely crucial. If he doesn't pick up a penalty, he's in a very, very strong position.
Very hectic. Look at that. Look at that. That is 2 side-by-side moments there in one picture, and one is Luca trying to get past Sick Boy, one is Mosey trying to stay ahead of Monty, and now having a look down the inside, and Monty has just picked up the pieces from that, and I think he's around the outside of Sick Boy, and I think he's got it done. Yes, Mosey has, rather than gained 1, lost 1.
I can't help feeling that was a little bit rash from Mosey as he comes into the pits. So has he got?
Yeah, he's frustrated. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, It's a difficult one, really. This is opted to retire, but there was 2 battles going on there, and I don't really know as to why he stuck his nose down a different battle. It was a bit of a rash move, to be honest. He should have focused on getting the move he was involved in done first, and then attacking the car in front later. I think it was almost a little bit too greedy.
Yeah, it looks like Sick Boy is now dropping like a stone through that field of soft runners now. Raggy, by the way, is at the back of that train where he was 3 seconds off before his pit stop. Maybe he can get into that 1 second window at some stage, and that would maybe put him back into the fight-in for those positions, but who knows. He hasn't got a penalty so far, so at the moment he's ahead of Luca in theory, but YS Brand is doing everything he needs to do right now. He's closing up more and more. He's using that tyre advantage that he seems to still have at this stage of the race. And is now only 2 seconds behind Radiaz in P2 and currently in the effective lead.
Yeah, he's in a nice position, but he doesn't have to like really close on or pass these guys in front of him. As long as he stays penalty free, he's in a really good position here, and he's absolutely mastered his soft tyre stint. He hasn't got involved in any unnecessary battling. He's just picked his moves at the perfect time and managed to pull a gap on the soft tyre runners behind, and really has driven an excellent stint so far as Monty picks up, I think, his first penalty as well, so that's costly for him. Luca does the fastest lap of the race. I'm interested to see if he can attack his teammate, but Weisbrand looking in a really strong position right now. He's really driven a superb race up to now, but one penalty could quickly change that.
Yeah, and now that there is the question, does he go for a move? Does he try to get past those guys to prevent a penalty for him destroying all his chances for a race win? Or does he just stay behind and try to be within that 3 second window and just not pick up a penalty? Both have their own risks, but he needs to decide now.
Well, Radia is... I wonder if part of the reason Radia is staying behind Russell is that Russell has 6 seconds worth of penalties compared to Radia's 3, so... I wonder if that's why Radia's not attacking too much.
Look at the Red Bulls. There's Monty. He's got a penalty and attacking his teammate. Really don't know if that's the smartest decision to do within teammates, within one team. I mean, I think Monty has got less of a chance for a good result than Wrench does, and his pace didn't look that much better than the one from Wrench so far. So I don't really know if that is all too smart what those two Red Bulls are doing at the moment.
Yeah, Christian Horner will be shaking his head in the pit wall, and I think Wrench actually had the fastest lap a few laps ago, so really does back up, but he wasn't slow in any way at all. So, not too sure the two Red Bulls really needed to fight there. Weisbrand is right on the back of a leading group. You feel like he could overtake quite comfortably if he wants to, but is it worth the risk? Is it better for him to just stick behind? But I don't know, racing drivers, they want to win outright. They don't want, as Bramer crashes out.
Or is that going to be a safety car? Doesn't look like it.
No, it's like we're avoiding safety cars for this one, but Weisbrand, you kind of want to win by crossing a line in first place. I know that it doesn't make any difference how many points you get, but as a racing driver, you do almost want to win it outright. There's a certain extra bit of good feeling you get from doing that, I think.
Yeah, well, the question is, what does Radiaz do now? Because obviously he has to defend from YS-Brand, but it could be difficult by staying behind Russell here. And in the end, I don't know how well these two are getting along, as Luca passes his teammate and Monty passes Alberto as well. So maybe it was the right decision for Monty to pass his teammate, because his teammate is going to pick up those spots ahead anyway. And YS-Brand is already going for it. It looks like I missed that one. But Radiaz has managed to defend for now, but it looks like YS-Brand is going for track position just to be safe in terms of penalties. Could be the right decision, could be the wrong decision. We'll find out within the next 4 laps as we cross the line to then start lap 25, and we're getting closer and closer to the end of this race. But it looks like YS-Brand is willing to take that P2 right now on the track.
I wonder if he just sees the soft tyre runners behind him closing in, and he's just thinking, I don't really want to start getting involved with a scrap with those guys behind again. So he's just looking for a way through. And of course, the soft tyres will be start to go off now as well. They'll just want to make sure, because of course all it takes is one mistake. He picks up a penalty, and him and Raddy are basically fighting for position. So, you know, it's probably on the safe side to try and get that position sealed. We've got a yellow flag in the sector 2, which...
Oh, look at Radiaz. He's gone for the better exit, but it hasn't really worked. And Espen is very close. Does Radiaz defend for his life? No, he doesn't. He stays to the outside and basically weaves Espen through on the straight. And it's an easy move for Monty at the same time. It's picking up places left, right, and center. And Monty's shown great pace in the last couple of laps. So he's up into P4 and could maybe even challenge Radiaz now, because obviously they're on the same amount of penalties at the moment. Espen now up into P2, and he's willing to win that race on track.
Yeah, and of course Russell will drop down with his 6 seconds worth of penalties, so potentially Monty here is still looking at a potential podium if he can get past Radia. So maybe the Red Bull switch was a good idea, because Wrench is kind of stuck behind the 2 Haas cars, whereas Monty has made good ground up. So he'll be sort of saying "I told you so" on that one, you know. But it's easy to say in hindsight. We've got Weisbrand right up behind Russell, and I get the feeling he just wants to get out into the lead here, because it's just the safest place to be. If you're out in front, you can focus on your own race, and there's no chance of drivers behind causing any sort of chaos to your race.
Yes, absolutely, and he has definitely got the pace to be in the lead and to maybe even pull a gap to Russell behind him. And look how close he is in that first sector, even with all that dirty air he's getting from that AlphaTauri ahead of him. He is very close, only 3 tenths in between them, and I think there's no way Russell can hold on to that first place on that upcoming straight now, down to turn 12. Russell pulls to the inside, but it's looking like an easy move for Weisbrand. He's got the outside line though, and Russell tucks into the slipstream. Can't fight back. No way. And Monty, look at Monty. Monty's trying to get P3 here, and he's got it. Out of nowhere, Monty, by passing his teammate, somehow activated some magic mode on that Red Bull steering wheel, and he's up into P3, and can even challenge for P2. The win is out of his grasps, because he has got a penalty, and Weisbrand doesn't, and he's in the lead, pulling out that gap. But now that could be the chance for Monty to actually pick up P2 here.
Yeah, absolutely. He's absolutely flying, Monty, ever since he got past his teammate, which was a decision that we questioned at the time, but it's ultimately proven to be the right one, because he's been absolutely charging. And to be fair, Wrench, considering where Wrench is, he's still in a very good position to get a great result as well. So potentially here, it's hard to tell of how it'll work out with the penalties, but there's every chance we could have both Red Bulls on the podium by the end of his race.
Could be a great tactic, even though we question it. It's proven to be right at this moment. Still 2 laps left in this race. It looks like Espen is controlling it now, more or less. He can't quite get Russell out of his DRS window, but I don't think he's going to be a big threat to actually pass him on track with penalties. There's no way he's going to get past if Espen doesn't pick up one. But look at Monty. He's so close to that rear end of Russell, and he's getting that slipstream from that AlphaTauri, and he's getting closer and closer and closer. And as soon as we cross the line, it's going to be the last lap. Let's look at Luca, and Radius is dropping like a stone. He's lost another spot, and now maybe even 2 as Wrench is down the inside through turn 12. They're glitching through each other. What? I think they can't see each other. I think that's once again the game just glitching. Or is it?
Yeah, that was bizarre on my screen. It was looks like they're about to have an almighty crash. It was completely bizarre. But Wrench has got the move done and up into P5, and yeah, he's in a great position as well now. And Radia is the one who's dropping down. You'd find it hard to believe a few laps ago that Russell and Radia were running together on the road.
No.
9 seconds worth of penalties now for Russell. He's in a great position on track, but penalties are absolutely going to ruin his result. Yeah,
he's actually doing a good job of keeping track with the soft runners now. Ooh, as Monty loses the rear end as the tyre wear kicks in on the soft compound now as well. But yeah, and Russell just lets him go. Smart decision probably, because he knows he has got a lot more penalties. So it's all about just losing as minimal time as possible to maybe stay ahead of 1 or 2 more drivers. by just not fighting anyone around him. Alberto, I'm really not sure what the penalties are like. Let's just open that screen up now. And Bo has gone past Reggie in the first sector. All right, interesting to see where he has made that move. Alberto close to the rear end of Radias now as well, who's just dropping more and more and more. And look at Russell. Russell is going for it into turn 12. He tries to get back past the Red Bull, slightly pushes him out wide, but gives him the room on the outside. And Monty has still kept his Red Bull car ahead of the AlphaTauri sister team. And he's on track in P2, and he's probably going to finish in P3 because his teammate Rensch is right at the end of those three drivers. And it's looking like a double Red Bull podium here, as we can see YS Brand is coming around the final couple of corners now. He's crossing the line, on track in first, and he's going to win the race here in USA. Monty's going to cross the line in second, but in the end, it's his teammate Rensch that picks up P2. Monty then in P3. Radiaz dropped down to P4, but in the end, gained a couple of positions due to only having one penalty ahead of Luca in P5. Then we've got Alberto in P6 in his Haas. He only just crossed the line and he's still ahead of Russell. Sick Boy secures P8. Architect in P9. Bo picks up P10 and Raggy only just misses out on the final point paying position there in P10. Kev rounds the final corner with 6 seconds worth of penalties and crashes into the wall for good measure. Across the line he goes, and Harmon has crashed even before the line.
Yeah, he couldn't wait to join in the fun and decided he would have an accident in the final sector. But not a race he would have wanted. His teammate, on the other hand, YS Brand, absolutely masterful drive. Cannot fault his performance throughout. No penalties. Called the strategy excellently. His soft tyre stint was absolutely superb. A little bit under the radar, you'd have to say, at the start of the race, because he was kind of in the middle of that DRS train on the mediums. You didn't really notice him, but he absolutely called it right once he got on the softs, and there's no doubt he deserves to win that race.
Yeah, great pace from him, and yeah, like you've mentioned, a bit under the radar. We expected Alberto to be on that top step at some stage of this race, but gotta say as well, fair play to Monty and both Red Bulls, which tactics we've questioned at the time it was happening, but in the end it turned out to be the exact right decision, which then got them a double podium. So really nothing to say about that, to say against that, I should rather say. Great stuff from those Red Bull guys. And you know, when you think about it, if it works out that well, if you know that your teammate who's got penalties is going that quickly at the moment, it is probably smart to let him go through, because he then can overtake the people on track while you are just staying behind, because you know you're going to pass them on penalties anyway. And that's what they've done, and it's worked out brilliantly. And in the end, it's a double podium for Red Bull, and probably a bit disappointing for Russell, who tried to fight his way back on the podium here, but he just couldn't hold on to it. And in the end, picked up that one more penalty that cost him a lot more than it should have.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure now as well, because I don't believe that McLaren get any constructors' points through Radias, because he isn't one of their full-time drivers. So if there was a 32-point gap between McLaren and Red Bull coming into this at the top of the constructors, but Red Bull have absolutely eaten their way into that gap. So the Drivers' Championship may be secure, but McLaren versus Red Bull in the constructors looks like it's a fight that's going to go down to the final two races. So still plenty to fight for there. And as we saw there, potentially there's quite a bit of teamwork and communication going on at Red Bull.
Yeah, and that can in the end help winning the Constructors' Championship. But I think we've seen a great race today, especially at the start. There was so much action. Remember, we still had Leroy on the first stint in the fight for that win with some great racing. I mean, the first 8 laps were brilliant in terms of racing, but at the same time, there was never really a dull part of the race where we were just sitting here not having anything to talk about, because it was interesting all the time. And I gotta say, that was quite a lot of fun commentating it tonight.
Yeah, it was really to and fro as well. You at certain points in the race, you sort of backed Russell and Radia Alberto, Leroy. It was constantly up in the air as to who was going to come out on top, and really we didn't know until the last few laps who was going to win the race. It was some great action, a full grid. I couldn't ask for really much more than that, and it definitely sets us off into a good mood going into next week's mini break before we have the final 2 rounds.
Yeah, good that you've mentioned it. I was about to say as well, don't tune in next week because you won't see anything happening. There's no race next week. But the week after that, we are definitely going to be back for some more action. As I actually don't quite know which race it's going to be.
It's Monza.
It is Monza, the Temple of Speed in Italy. So make sure to tune into that once again as well for the penultimate round. One of the most historic track in Formula 1, isn't it? Or is it Silverstone? I'm not quite sure.
It's definitely up there. There'd be quite a debate, but for me, Silverstone or Monza, it would have to be, just because they're probably the ones that appeared on the calendar the very earliest back in the day. But always a great track to see some racing around. We mentioned DRS trains in this race. That will definitely be the case at Monza, and hopefully it should be another great race.
Yes, so make sure to tune in when it's time for PSGL F7 again. Great race today. Had a lot of fun commentating. Thank you, Jake, once again for joining me. And yeah, we'll see you in 2 weeks' time when we are going back for racing in PSGL. So goodbye until then, and take care.